Hey guys, this is Steli Efti with Closio. You have to resell every single person you talk to from scratch. It's a golden rule in sales and one that's broken all the time. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times you'll be talking to a specific person in a business organization. They become your champion eventually, and at one point or another, you sold them and they've bought into your value proposition and they want to buy your solution. They want to buy your product. They want to buy from you. That's awesome, right? High five. You're amazing. You did a great job. Now, what happens next? Typically, what happens next is that, either as the very next step or a few steps down the line, you'll have to talk to other people in that organization as well. It might be some technical folks to talk about the integrations and integrating your technology or product. It might be that you have to talk to the legal department or procurement or the CEO or executive suite or some project manager below the person that you talk to. It doesn't matter. Typically, when a big business buys, you don't just talk to one person, you have to talk to many. And here's the mistake that too many salespeople make. They think that once they sold their champion, the buyer, they don't have to sell anymore. Now all they have to do is provide information. So they jump on another call, let's say with some engineer that would be responsible for implementing their software, let's say if you're selling software, and they go into that conversation as if that engineer knows everything about your company and your product, knows everything about your technology, is totally bought into your value proposition, and is so excited to talk to you. So you pick up the phone, zero preparation, and you think, all this is going to be is me giving some answers, helping that poor engineer out a little bit, and then he or she's going to go and implement it. And all of a sudden, that engineer asks some very difficult questions, seems very disengaged, seems kind of cynical and critical. And you think, well, this is surely harder than I thought it should be. You go from that relaxed state into a bit more of an intense state and a depressed state, and you start second guessing and doubting yourself and thinking, well, this might not go down that well because there are all these challenges and this engineer is very critical and no, we cannot do this and this is a no-go, and if you guys can't figure out X, Y, and Z, then you can forget this deal. And all of a sudden, the sure thing that you had a moment ago just fades away. Why? Because you didn't take the time to resell that person, understand that person's desires, needs, problems, challenges, and make sure that they buy into you, they buy into your business, your technology, your solution before you talk about any implementation or answer any questions. You have to resell every single person in the organization you interact with for the first time from scratch. And it doesn't matter if it goes up or down, the hierarchy within that organization. Every single person is important. Every single person in a big organization can derail the deal, can make sure that it doesn't happen, can be the critical voice that raises, challenges and problems and objections and makes people start doubting the deal and ultimately make the deal fall through. You have to resell every single person. And you cannot resell every single person from the same vantage point. You have to understand that every single department and every single person you talk to has different needs, has different fears, has different likes, has different things they care about, a different agenda. You need to understand that agenda. You need to understand how it relates to what you are doing and what you're providing and selling. And you need to sell it in a way that aligns with that agenda so they can buy into it and want you to succeed, want that project to succeed, and not even just buying your software, but then when they buy, making sure that it's been implemented successfully so that the company keeps buying from you and expanding the business and the relationship. Don't ever forget this golden rule of sales. When you're selling to big businesses, you have to resell every single person. Doesn't matter if it's the assistant, the office manager, the CEO, an intern. The first time you interact with somebody, you resell them on yourself, on your business, on your product, technology, whatever it is, before you move on, to make sure that you keep building momentum within the organization. You build a little army of champions that all want to buy and have bought into what you do and all want that project to succeed. If you can't do that, and if you keep that golden rule in mind, you're going to be crushing it in B2B sales. If you forget about that, you're going to have a ton of problems, a ton of deals that were sure deals, sure things, all of a sudden, towards the end, some surprise came along. Somebody surprisingly was involved that you didn't care enough about, didn't have on your radar, and the deal doesn't come through, in a baffling fashion. And all of a sudden you're thinking, why did this turn sour? Everything was going so great, but then all of a sudden the CEO looked at it and said no. Or all of a sudden the technical team started derailing the project or slowing the deal down because they have all these questions and they have all these problems. And whenever we provide all that information, we don't hear back from them. And every time I go back to my champion, the champion says, well, we're waiting on the technical team to tell us if we can buy this or not. Don't break that rule. Every time you talk to somebody in an organization, you have to resell from scratch. Don't assume they know anything about you. Don't assume they know anything about your technology or solution. Don't assume anything. Take every single call with a beginner's mind and resell them first before you move forward with anything else. If you do that, you're going to crush it. All right, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to blog.close.io and subscribe to our blog. And if you want to get in touch with me personally, just shoot me an email at stelly@close.io. All right, thanks.